You know, when you think of Palm Sunday, what comes to mind? Probably Jesus, a donkey, maybe some palm branches, right? But what if I told you the real story wasn't actually about the parade at all? What if it was about one single powerful question? A question that literally shook an entire city to its core. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so try to picture this. You're in ancient Jerusalem. It's Passover, which means the city is absolutely jam-packed. It's loud, it's crowded, and then, out of nowhere, this commotion just erupts. People are gathering, shouting, waving palm branches. It's just pure chaos. And somehow, above all that noise, one single question starts to rise up, bouncing off the stone walls, echoing through the streets. Who is this?
And get this, the word Matthew uses in the original Greek for turmoil, it's the same word they'd use for an earthquake. So we're not talking about a little bit of excitement here. No, this was a seismic event. Jesus' arrival sent a shockwave right through the city's social, political, and religious foundations. I mean, everything was shaken.
So where do we even start to answer that massive question? Well, the first clue is a big one. This whole thing, it looked totally spontaneous, right? But it was anything but. In fact, it was planned down to the last detail by the very person at the center of it all.
I mean, this was no accident. Jesus basically stage directs his own entrance. He gives his disciples these incredibly specific instructions. Go to this village, you'll find a donkey and a colt, and when they ask what you're doing, say this exact phrase. And listen to the phrase, the Lord needs them. That's not a polite request, you know? That's a royal command. That's the kind of thing a king would say when he's requisitioning something for the crown.
It's kind of like planning a huge modern parade, right? To us watching, it just looks like this big, happy, chaotic celebration. But behind the scenes, every single float, every balloon, every step is planned out for months. And that is a perfect picture of what's happening here. This was a divine script, centuries in the making, and now it was finally unfolding, right there, in real time.
But why? Why all the detailed planning? Why a donkey, of all things? Well, because Jesus was intentionally and very publicly fulfilling a prophecy that was written down hundreds of years before by the prophet Zechariah. This wasn't just him giving a little wink to the scriptures. No, every single detail was like a giant flashing neon sign. It was a clear declaration of his identity for anyone who was paying attention. By choosing that donkey, he was basically shouting, without saying a word, "I am the king you've all been waiting for."
Okay, so part one of the answer is clear. This is a king. But this is where the story takes a turn and gets way more complex. Because the way he showed up, well, it completely flipped the script on what everyone thought a king was supposed to be.
You have to remember, back then, symbols were everything. They were like a universal language. And if a king rode into town on a massive war horse, everybody knew what that meant: conquest, power, domination. But a king on a donkey, that sent a completely different message. It was a well-known symbol of peace, of humility. So his choice of animal wasn't random at all. It was a powerful, deliberate statement about what kind of kingdom he was bringing.
And we still see this today, right? When a president or a prime minister comes to town, what happens? The streets get shut down. You've got the motorcade, flashing lights, security everywhere. It's this huge display of power and authority. Jesus' arrival was the polar opposite. No soldiers, no motorcade, just a borrowed donkey. It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it?
And really, this gets right to the very heart of his message. The greatest king, the greatest power in the universe, shows up in the most humble way possible. He's showing that the kingdom of God isn't built on force or dominating people. It's built on something totally different, on sacrifice and on love.
All right, so Jesus makes his statement, "I'm a humble king." But what about the crowd? What were they thinking? Well, their celebration was wild, it was full of symbolism, but their understanding of what was actually happening, it was dangerously incomplete.
So first, you have people throwing their cloaks on the road in front of him. And this isn't just them being polite, like laying down a red carpet. This was a known gesture from their own history. It was like a spontaneous flash mob coronation ceremony. They were literally, with their actions, screaming, "You are our new king."
And then you add the palm branches to the mix. For the Jewish people, palms were a huge national symbol. They were like a flag of victory. Waving them meant you believed freedom from your enemies was here, that your nation was finally going to be restored. So you put the cloaks and the palms together, and it's clear. They saw Jesus as the conquering hero who was about to kick out the Romans.
So when the rest of the city is asking, "Who is this guy?" the crowd has their answer ready. They shout, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth." And look, they weren't wrong. He was a prophet from Nazareth. But that answer, it wasn't the whole story, not even close. It was a tragically incomplete answer.
See, they saw what they wanted to see, a political liberator, a national hero. They were celebrating the king of their own expectations. And in doing that, they completely missed the king he actually was. And that one misunderstanding, it would have absolutely devastating consequences just a few short days later.
And this brings us to the final and honestly the most important part of this whole story. Because you have to understand, the parade was never the point. This ride into Jerusalem wasn't the grand finale. It was just the beginning of the final leg of a journey that was about to change the world forever.
The crowd, they saw a road leading to a palace. They saw a road leading to a throne. They saw a road leading to victory over Rome. But Jesus, he knew the truth. He knew exactly where this road ended. This road, filled with palm branches and cheering, led directly and intentionally to a cross. And this is the whole key to understanding it. His mission was the complete opposite of their expectations. See, he didn't come to demand a throne, he came to embrace a cross. He didn't come to conquer with a sword, he came to conquer sin through his own sacrifice. And the victory he was there to win wasn't some temporary political one. It was an eternal spiritual peace.
And that's what turns this from just some interesting historical event into something deeply personal. See, 2,000 years ago, people laid their coats on a dusty road for him. But what the story is telling us is that today, he's not looking for a path made out of clothes. He's looking for a home inside your life. So, we end up right back where we started. That same question that shook Jerusalem all those years ago, well, it echoes down through time and it lands right here, with you, with me. It demands an answer. Who is this? Is he just a historical figure, a good teacher, or is he something more? Is he the king who came not to take a throne, but to rescue you? The story's been told. Now the question is yours to answer.